Hello everyone, and welcome. In recent years there's been a larger demand for crisp execution and efficient gameplay. Most often than not, every player strives to become the best, regardless of their skill or talents. With such great pressure comes great problems. New tech and setups crafted on a daily basis. How can one surely keep up? Luckily, with the variety of input devices and resources online, it's become much easier to perform at a higher skill level than it was in the past. But there is some difficulty finding archives that tailor to your specific needs. In my case, as a keyboard player, there is hardship in finding resources online to aid and assist. My hopes are to catalog some of these problems so that the next player doesn't struggle in the same way that I do. In this third episode, we'll be dealing with techniques that I believe have to be my favorite, as I am a big fan of execution, especially that of the higher variant. The reason being we're dealing with command just frame moves. And the reason why I'm calling them command just frames is because we're not dealing with just frames you have to time with a single button press. So in this case, I'm specifically talking about Noctis and Paul's Demo Man. The move itself, as in the inputs themselves, are not really just frames. They are very easy to execute in the case of actually doing a Demo Man. But the just frame comes in timing the last hit animation by pressing the corresponding button. So there are not many buttons to press to obtain the just frame, it's just actually pressing one button at the right time. But in this case, we're talking about command just frames, where the entirety of the move is the just frame. Chances are it comes from a wave dash, so you're going to have to input those directions into the move at the specific timing. In this case, or should I say in this episode, we're dealing with three of my favorites. We're dealing with the just frame Skyrocket, the pure electric wind Godfist, and Heihachi's just frame Dragon Uppercut. In this case, these moves usually lead to extremely high damage, and I feel like if you play any of these three characters, you are entitled to know how to do these moves. I've personally struggled for a long time trying to do the just frame Skyrocket, and I'm very happy that this tech works with each of these moves, as they are all just frames. I hope you enjoy, and moving on to the live feed. As I have said before, the annotations probably have already appeared on screen. Enjoy. Welcome everyone, and in this third episode we're going to be dealing with just frames. Just frames are usually characterized by having blue sparks. I'm going to try input one now. And that's the game trying to indicate to you that you are inputting the move at the supposed just frame. Just frames aren't a unique feature to Tekken, but it's something that's within the game, and it's a reward for your execution. If you're able to get the just frame, you usually get some form of bonus, whether it be damage or frames or whatever it may be. You get some form of damage for being thanked for your great execution. So in this case, we'll be dealing with three different just frames. I believe they're, for me personally, the main ones in the game. We are dealing with Heihachi, Hwoarang, and Kazuya, each of which have their own unique to them just frame move that we are going to utilize and explain to you today. As I said before, the key bindings and annotations have already been shown, and just to re-clarify what we're doing now, W, S, A, and D are our D-pad, 6, Y, T, and U are left analog stick. So the running concurrent theme has been to use both hands to utilize your movement options in the game to make it a little bit easier. I mean, you know, two hands are better than one, right? But most often than not, people will try utilize one hand to complete a lot of the task, and then have to mirror it with their right hand, which is usually what they use to attack, which is very difficult, coordinating both hands. If you remember, as kids, there used to be that one-legged race where they would get two people and tie them together. Was it a two-legged race? And that was difficult because you're trying to coordinate two separate entities to do one thing. So in this case, we're bringing the right hand into the focus to aid in the left hand, and hopefully we'll get things of the great nature. So this particular just frame with the Heihachi requires you to tap forward and then immediately input down, forward, and left punch. I'll show the command history right now so that you can see what the input is. I'll try it again. As you can see, from forward, we immediately press down, forward, and left punch at the exact same time. You cannot have it any later, you cannot have it any sooner, you will not get the just frame. I'll try input the exact same move, but with one hand. Bear in mind I'm right-handed, so my left hand is quite weak and the coordination isn't so great, so chances are I will not get this move, but I will try my best. In that case, I didn't even get a wave dash. That was pathetic. Let's try again. Same story. Same story. Now in that case I got the wave dash, but as you can see, I first pressed down and then down forward, and then on the second frame of my down forward is when the punch connected. That's not how it's supposed to be. That was technically about 3 frames too late. So in that case, this is not how you're supposed to do the move. That isn't even how you'd even get an electric, because it's just way too slow. Now with this input, I would have gotten an electric because the punch had landed on the second frame, but still you are not getting a just frame. So now in this case, let's use both hands to try mitigate this poor execution I have on my left hand. So we're going to use our right hand. These 2 middle fingers are what I'm going to use to press my down and forward on my left analog stick, and then I'm going to use my pointing finger to press my left punch. So in this case, I'll have a crab like structure to press my down forward. As you can see, the input isn't 100% clean, but it's extremely clean considering that I got the left punch and the down forward at exactly the same frame. This is clean, 100% clean execution of that particular part of the move. So now if we put that together with our left hand, the left hand will be in charge of tapping forward. Simple enough, not much to do. So if we're to do it again, crab structure, left hand presses forward, you get a just frame. Very simple, and the same concept works on the player 2 side. We're going to use our left hand to tap forward, whether you're going to use this finger, the ring finger, or the pointing finger, that's up to you, it's comfort. And we're going to use that same crab structure, but things change. These 2 fingers press T and Y because that's my left and down, and then my thumb is the one that's going to press my left punch. Going on the 2P side seems to be always my weaker side because the hand is in a weird position. Even back in the day when I used to try do electrics normally without using double directional inputs, I would always miss because the left hand side is always my weaker side. I'm right-handed. So let's try utilize that same task again. Left ring finger, down back, or down forward in this case, 2P side, and punch will be completed with my right hand. And it's not coming out, but I'm gonna try again. And there we go. You have to be you have to have some form of rhythm, because I find with my left hand side I'm very tempted to press the buttons all at the same time, and that's what was happening before, and I end up getting down forward 1. So you have to have the right timing and have to have the right rhythm, and you have to remember that since you're using your thumb, it's very easy to be fat fingered and continue pressing the button and missing your second input. But at the end of the day, you can get your just frame. It gives really good damage, and it's a good tool for Heihachi. I feel like most Heihachi players would need to learn how to do that move, not only for style but for utility. When people tend to start ducking your electrics, you still have a powerful mid launcher that you can use to get for very big damage. Now in this other case, I'm going to move on to show you the same principle with Kazuya. Now with Kazuya, he has, like all Mishimas, he's got a God Fist, he's got an electric wind God Fist, and he has what they call a pure electric wind God Fist. But I just realized my command history cannot be shown while recording, so actually I'm gonna turn back and switch to Kazuya himself. That way you get to see the exact same principle I was teaching you with Kazuya and doing just frames. I actually prefer, if I were to pick, I guess, the electric I like the most, I would dare say Kazuya is my favorite, not only because the pure electric wind God Fist is the faster one, it's 13 instead of 14. You learn one technique and you stick with it. So before we even get to it, if I'm a Devil Jin player, if I were to do an electric, I have my technique of doing it, which is forward, which is D, then S, and then U plus N. That would be how I do electrics with Devil Jin. But then if I were to switch to Kazuya, maybe in a second set, if I want the pure electric, I have to use the just frame method I just taught you. Bear in mind, forward and down forward into 2 will not yield an electric for someone who doesn't have a pure electric wind God Fist. So, I mean, if you're not using Kazuya, that input does not work. You just get whatever corresponding punch is, whether it be down forward 2 with Devil Jin or standing 2. So in that case, you need that down input to get the electric. But back on track, forward is tapped with the left hand, which is D, and then down forward is Y and U. Get a really clean down forward input, and then you press punch. So in this case, you get the pure electric wind God Fist. I would like to turn on frame data app, but you get the idea. If you get that specific input, you get the good, very powerful electric, which leads to high damage combos. Kazuya players have their combos on deck, give them a rage drive, best believe they're going for high damage. But having a 13 frame launcher is not common. Most people can't launch at 13 frames. The only character I believe that I use that can launch anyone at 13 frames is Geese with meter. And I guess Elisa, but that's a situational counter hit. Yeah, I guess most of the 2D characters have some form of a 13 frame launcher. But the fact that you have a 13 frame electric is a good tool to have. Same story on the opposite side. Your right hand uses T and Y. That's your down forward on the left hand side. Your thumb presses 2 and your left hand presses whatever forward is for you on the 2P side. You have to practice this a bit. As I said, I am not left-handed, but you can still get the electric from that same situation. It's very consistent as compared to trying it with one hand. To me, it's much easier. Like I said, I've never really been good at this at all, and I feel if someone who isn't a strong Mishima player can manage to do electrics consistently, this is a very good tool to have. And moving on to Hwoarang and the Just Frame Skyrocket. Just to show it, I'll set the opponent to be at the wall and block. Same story, same crab notation, and I was trying an electric for some reason. Moving on to 4, you get your Just Frame. But like I said, you have to be really deliberate with your moves, because Hwoarang actually has many attacks stemming from a down forward, but luckily enough, most of those attacks are quite safe. And sadly, though it's a Just Frame Skyrocket, really good launching mid, it is safe, but if you make a mistake and do the regular one, like this, that can be punished. So you have to be careful, and you definitely have to practice this a lot. But those are the Just Frames in a nutshell. Thanks for watching.